Alleluia, Christ is risen.
Alleluia, Christ is risen.
Alleluia, Christ is risen.
He is risen indeed. Hallelujah. Welcome to this online service. And of course we're having this service online because of the coronavirus and the lockdown we're going through. Do stay with us though. At the end of this online service we have a Mission Community Cake Bake-Off, and at the end of that we have a special cameo performance from Reverend Steve Jones, our rector-to-be, and he'll be judging who has won the cake baking competition. But first, I'd like to start with a short reflection from Exciting Holiness. And the reading for today, the 19th of April, we remember Alphege. He was Archbishop of Canterbury and martyr. Alphege became a monk at Deerhurst near Gloucester and withdrew in later life to be a hermit in Somerset. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Dunstan, drew him back to be Abbot of Bath and, in 984, Bishop of Winchester. In 1005 he was made Archbishop of Canterbury, where his austere life and lavish almsgiving made him a revered and much loved man. In the year 1011, the Danes overran southeast England, taking Alphege prisoner. They put the enormous ransom of £3,000 on his head, but Alphege refused to pay it and forbade anyone from doing so, knowing that it would impoverish the ordinary people even more. He was then brutally murdered by his captors at Greenwich on this day in the year 1012. Not a particularly cheerful reflection to start with, I know, but like Alphege, we are experiencing a very aggressive invasion at this time, and it's down to the government to decide how much it will pay and what cost it will be to this country in impoverishing people. But of course the government isn't thinking about one person, the government is rightly thinking about many, and that's a decision I'm glad that I don't have to make. But one decision I do have to make, and that is as a Christian, and I hope you join me, is that we will not be held to a ransom and we will not pay in worry and fear and stress over this thing. Continue to trust in the Lord. Now, we're trying to find out what works the best for these services, so we're mixing them up a little bit. Time constraints are an issue, filming and technology. But let's start by having our Mission Community prayer. We pray together. Heavenly Father, as we meet in your presence, hold us together in our mission community. May your church grow as we deepen our love for you and our service to others. Help us always to remember, though we are many, we are one body, as we all share in you, our one God. Amen. And the collect for today, the second Sunday of Easter. Risen Christ, for whom no door is locked, no entrance barred, open the doors of our heart, that we may seek the good of others, and walk the joyful road of sacrifice and peace to the praise of God the Father. Amen. Now we have young Lexton reading the first of our two Bible readings for today.
Acts chapter 2. Peter addresses the crowd. But Peter, standing with the 11, raised his voice and addressed them. Men of Judea and all who live in Jerusalem, let this be known to you, and listen to what I say. You that are Israelites, listen to what I have to say. Jesus of Nazareth, a man attested to you by God with deeds of power, wonders and signs that God did through him among you. As you yourselves know, this man handed over to you according to the definite plan and foreknowledge of God. You crucified and killed by the hands of those outside the law. But God raised him up, having freed him from death, because it was impossible for him to be held in its power. For David says concerning him, I saw the Lord always before me, for he is at my right hand, so that I will not be shaken. Therefore my heart was glad, and my tongue rejoiced. Moreover, my flesh will live in hope. For you will not abandon my soul to Hades, or let your Holy One experience corruption. You have made known to me the ways of life. You will make me full of gladness with your presence. Fellow Israelites, I may say to you confidently of our ancestor David, that he both died and was buried, and his tomb is with us to this day. Since he was a prophet, he knew that God had sworn with an oath to him that he would put one of his descendants on his throne. Foreseeing this, David spoke of the resurrection of the Messiah, saying, "He was not abandoned to Hades, nor did his flesh experience corruption. This Jesus God raised up, and of that all of us are witnesses."
And now we're going to have a hymn, and I'd like to thank Paul Stock for drawing my attention to the website, the RSCM website, and they do a great job of providing music and makes my life so much easier. So thank you, Paul. And the hymn we have today is All Heaven Declares, and straight after that we're going to have the Gospel reading read by Kate.
The Gospel reading is John chapter 20, verses 19 to 31. Jesus appears to the disciples. When it was evening on that day, the first day of the week, and the doors of the house where the disciples had met were locked for fear of the Jews, Jesus came and stood amongst them and said, "Peace be with you." After he said this, he showed them his hands and his side. Then the disciples rejoiced when they saw the Lord. Jesus said to them again, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, so I send you." When he had said this, he breathed on them and said to them, "Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive the sins of any, then you forgive them. If you retain the sins of any, they are retained. But Thomas, who was called the twin, one of the 12, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see the marks of the nails in his hands, and put my finger in the mark of the nails, and my hand in his side, I will not believe." A week later his disciples were again in the house, and Thomas was with them. Although the doors were shut, Jesus came and stood amongst them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Do not doubt, but believe." Thomas answered him, "My Lord, my God." Jesus said to him, "Have you believed because you have seen them? Blessed are those who have not seen, and yet they have believed." Now Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which were not written in this book. But these are written so that you may come to believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that through believing you may have life in his name.
Hello and welcome to a slightly different setting for this short talk. And one of the reasons I want to make this setting a little bit different is to save you having to look at me and my head for 5 minutes. So instead I thought I'd make it a little bit more interesting by taking you to Exmouth beachfront. Here we go. Ta-da! And of course the reason we can do this is because photography and videography are very much one of my passions and one of my hobbies. Now, I've had a few hobbies in the past. I think Kate's been trying to get me more into sketching, but I drew the line at that. And I also quite like skiing too, but as a hobby that went downhill quickly. So I'm going to stick with cameras and filming and the likes, and it's come in handy, especially now when we've got to try and reinvent services and ways of communicating. On Wednesday, earlier in the week, I got up 5 o'clock and I went outside the back of the house because obviously the lockdown, I couldn't really go anywhere else, and I wanted to film the sun rising. And I wanted to do this in a thing called time-lapse. I won't bore you with the details. So I did that, and then I went around the other side of the house by the garage, and I saw the roof of the car, and there was a thin layer of frost on the roof of the car. And I thought, I can catch this in fast-forward time-lapse as it's melting too. And that's what I did. Now, taking these little things that are related to my hobby, they haven't got to be separate from spirituality, and there's a distinct link between the two. And you don't need a huge amount of imagination to draw the connection between the sun rising and the sun rising. Of course, I'm not talking Aztec sun worship here, but we are talking Christian worship of the Son of God. And that other image that I talked about, the melting of the frost on the roof of the car, as the sun rose and as there was more time spent in the presence of the sun, then that ice began to melt. In our gospel reading earlier, we see Jesus as the risen Lord. And I'm assuming that I'm preaching to the converted here, and that you already accept that Christ has risen from the dead, and in accepting that simple fact, you also accept everything that goes with it. You accept that just as Christ rose from the dead, you're accepting that in that you yourself rose from the dead. Just as Christ overcame sin and death, therefore, in accepting Christ, you can also accept that you are going to overcome sin and death, and are overcoming sin and death. The disciples, they're together and they've seen the risen Jesus Christ. But one of them was missing, of course, Thomas. And Thomas, you can feel his pain a little bit, can't you? He doesn't want to believe because it's a sense of disappointment that he has. And you can really sense that he doesn't want to put his hope in anything. He wants to just kind of pull it together a little bit and just be by himself and not overreach his faith, his hope, and his beliefs. But of course, he then is confronted with the risen Son, and that light and that warmth shines onto his life, and that doubt and that fear of disappointment that he has melts away. And of course, the imagery between what I photograph in my hobby and the connection with Christ, the risen Son, and we can see that by spending time with Christ, that light and that warmth affects us, and it changes our nature, and it very much melts our cold and frosty, uncaring parts, and that warmth seeps into us. So why am I telling you all this? Well, the reason I'm telling you this is for the same reason that book was written. And we can see that at the end of our reading, John writes, "Now Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written so that you may come to believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that through believing you may have life in his name." And it's that life that we have, just as we look around the world, the spring and the life coming up from the ground, energized by the warmth of the sun rising, so we as Christians can take that imagery and we can bring it to our own lives, and we can recognize that our life, our spiritual life, grows and expands, grows in fruitfulness, reaches maturity and growth the more we spend in the presence, in the light, in the warmth of Christ. So really, we have doubts, we have fears, we have worries. Of course we do. But I would encourage you, spend time in the brightness of Christ's presence. And by doing that, you will have life and evermore. Now, just as a few points for thought that I'd like to share. In your prayers, could you please continue to remember Angela Tunwell? As I'm sure many of you heard, she lost both her parents. They'd had their 60th wedding anniversary, and the coronavirus did what it does. And so please remember Angela and her family in your prayers. And also continue praying for Sue and Sheila. And amongst your groups, again, there are many people who you know who need a bit of company or need to be held up in prayer. And Charles Jackson as well. You could probably do with a bit of praying for now and then, and the odd phone call wouldn't go amiss. On a more cheerful note, I'd like to congratulate Tony and Margaret Siddle. It's their 51st wedding anniversary. So congratulations, guys. That's really good news for you. And for those people who I haven't mentioned, then I'm sorry about that. And I recognise that there are parts of this service that have been left out, and we're going to work at this. It's definitely a work in progress. I'm not going to complain about the hours and the complexities of trying to do this, but Benedict and I we'll continue to do the best we can under the circumstances. So, this brings us to the end of the service. One of the important things about the service, of course, is the community aspect, and that's so difficult to achieve. But we're going to have a stab at that now with the Easter bake-off, the Easter cake bake-off competition. I think the rules are something about having a cake with some vegetable in it. And in case you're wondering, tomatoes are fruit, so they don't count. I think carrot cakes are the preferred one. So hopefully we will continue to develop and improve and add more. We're doing what we can. Bear with us. It's a work in progress. So over to the cake competition. Here we go. And here we are, concluding with our Easter cake bake-off competition. It's me. Hello. Go on, Steve. Handsome chap. So welcome indeed to our Easter cake bake-off. First up.
Well, welcome to the Vicarage kitchen this morning. We're very excited. Aren't we, boys?
Excited, very excited.
Very excited to be doing the Mission Community bake-off today. I've already had 6
pints.
Entries from the wider mission community, so still got a chance to put your entry in. Just take a video or a picture of the thing that you bake. It's got to have a vegetable in the ingredients. You can't just have a chocolate cake with a carrot. So
vegetable.
I was originally going to do, but
not going to work.
Vetoed that. So
vegetable
we're going to
cakes.
show you the cakes that we're making, and Steve, the rector, is going to judge them based on the photos and the videos.
that is kind of unfair though for us because we won't get chosen to win as well.
Pick a Sunday to win.
Exactly.
Getting by a bit of bias.
Quite
I
so.
will be a bit biased,
Okay,
so.
but I think I've come up with a way that we can still win it. Okay.
Have you?
Yeah, because you know how cute things make you win.
Yeah.
Pictures of bunnies and
Baby Eliza.
Baby Eliza.
Yeah.
She's got a huge advantage. Cute factor.
Exactly.
So this is a photo, boys, of you cooking when you were younger. So Samuel got given the most amazing chef's outfit, and Josh was a little bit jealous. He didn't have one,
I didn't.
so we had to kind of what's the word? Improvise. So I thought we could maybe recreate that to give you a chance of winning today, going on the cute factor.
Shall we
So
show the camera this photo?
go on then, you can show close up.
Let's have a look then. The cute factor. Little rascal. Rascals.
So,
Pretty adorable.
Samuel, you had the best chef's outfit that your grandma brought you. So I made you Blue Peter style, the best
Wow.
chef's hat.
Absolutely wrong.
I think this is going to help you win. Plus you have the
I'll
sort
put
of the
this on first, Samuel.
chef's apron. Do them up. Now Josh was a bit jealous of this, so we had to kind of improvise. So we found you. We had like another apron, so you can have this apron.
Yeah,
Do you want me to do you one?
you can. And we've put a lot of effort and thought into my hat, which is
It's the kind of best we could do, really.
right
isn't
here.
it?
I think that works.
Perfect. Now I think you've got a chance of winning. So,
We're ready.
Samuel, ready?
Those poor children,
What are
poor
you
children.
making?
Beetroot
Beetroot?
chocolate cake.
Ooh, beetroot velvet chocolate cake. Sounds
That's the
good.
one.
Josh, what are you making?
Pistachio, courgette, and lemon cake.
Courgette?
Are we ready?
Nice. Yeah.
Let's go then.
Okay. So I'm afraid we're going to have to.
Do we have teaspoon?
We have a little one.
Wow.
The workflow in progress. Let's look at, oh, good work with the egg there, Samuel.
Look at
I like the helmet. Good use of a motorbike helmet. Health and safety gone mad. Health and safety gone mad.
Ready for the baking bit? Okay. Into the oven we go.
Oh, it does look pretty good, I must say. Well done, the Benedict.
Okay, welcome back. This is the official taste test time. So, should we go, Joshua, with ours first?
Yes.
I want to try that one first.
Yeah, I think our mine should be first.
You want to go with this one first? So this is, remind me, the beetroot velvet chocolate cake. Okay, here we go then.
Beetroot, might want to have a bowl nearby.
Sorry.
The courgette. No retching. They seem to enjoy it. That's good. Oh, look at this. Now then, we're off with Karen's. That looks good. I guess that's one for you, one for Mark, unless, of course, Rolo gets his snout in there. And we'll sit down.
This is the morning I'm going to attempt a new cake. The book I'm using is one we compiled from my previous church, St Leonard's, in Heath and Reach, Leighton Buzzard. This is the book, and the recipe I'm going to do today is spicy carrot cake. Now, I've not done this one before, so I've no idea what it'll be like. I should put that down. I've got all my ingredients ready to go, so which are here. I'm going to wash my hands before I begin, and then I'll speak to you later when it's gone in the oven and come out, hopefully, as it should do. Right, here we go then. A good hand wash. My lovely Pears soap. And then I think we can, I think I've got everything ready. Just got to nip round to the cob to get a pint of milk later to do the topping, but that can wait.
A lot of preparation, and it came out looking quite wonderful. There we are, Jane, the carrot
And this is
cake.
the finished product.
Very impressive too.
The carrot cake. We don't know yet what it'll taste like, but it looks quite attractive. And thanks to my video recorder man, Keith.
Good stuff, good stuff. Right, next up, this is Richard and Jill. Now then, they've been working hard in the kitchen too. And carrot is the vegetable of choice for this one. 2 tiers, very impressive. I do like that. And evidence of consumption as well, which is good. Now, here we are. Look at this. Up in the presentation ante a little bit. Louise with a parsnip cake, chickpea flour. No. So you have to work very hard to convince me that parsnip can belong in a cake and not be in any way fatal. What have you got then, Louise? Good editing, I must say.
Okay, we come now to the taste test. So I'm now cutting into my parsnip and chickpea cake that's covered in rosemary infused frosting.
All right.
Okay. Oh, cuts nicely.
Cuts nicely.
Nice and soft.
It's the sponginess
See that?
test. Sponginess test, Louise. Let's see how spongy it is.
Oh, it's kind of springing back.
Yeah.
So, quite a good bake. Looks nice.
Apart from the
Some
big
air in
parsnip
there.
and parsnip.
Okay, here we go. So, small slice.
Oh, your phone going off there, Louise.
Okay, are we ready? Okay, here we go.
We're with you, Louise. We're with you. Oh, no retching. No retching, vomiting, gagging, choking, dying.
Unusual. Different.
Yeah.
Not unpleasant.
Was that unpleasant?
Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that.
Or
actually.
not unpleasant?
It was a good bake. It's edible. And the rosemary infused icing is actually quite light. So yeah, I think good job all round. Cheers.
Edibility. You're scoring points on edibility. Well done. Now then, we've got Margaret's offering here. And that does look good. It looks healthy. Healthy. Cakes and healthy. This is a new strange world we're living in here. Ah! Lizzie's Carrot Bites. The Jackson family going all out with the video editing here.
Right, Lizzie, could you please bring up your vegetable-themed plate to the table.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
This looks delicious, Lizzie. Can you remind us of what your vegetable themed bake is?
Yep, so this is just a classic carrot cake with some cream cheese frosting and some marzipan carrots to finish off.
Delicious.
The presentation is looking lovely. Very nice. Shall we help ourselves?
Yeah, fantastic presentation, but let's see what it tastes like.
The all-important
Let's
taste.
slice into it through.
Oh, let's find the biggest piece.
Bigger piece. Good sign.
Some excellent frosting there.
Frosting looks suspiciously gloopy to me.
Slice.
Oh,
I mixed it, Prue.
no. Thank you. It's got good consistency going on there. Delicious.
Smooth texture all the way through. No soggy bottoms there.
Lovely. Let's have a little try.
Again, no vomiting, gagging, retching. Nick doesn't look impressed. No, he's thinking.
Delicious.
The
You can really
thinking
taste that
face.
cinnamon and nutmeg coming through, and all of the spices. Oh, just that little kick, and then the cream cheese on top just makes it perfect.
Perfect.
Well, there's only one thing for it.
Oh. No cash prize though, is there, Nick?
Well done. Best carrot cake I've ever tasted.
Well dramatised. Nice transition. Devouring it. Jackson, so you get a round of applause for that. That was wonderful. Wonderful. All right. I got Reverend Father Pewsmeister himself with a bowl of dog vom. What has he got there? But he's created an Olympian cake with carrots. And there we are. Why have the fork when you can just chomp straight out of it? Looks like somebody's had a mouthful.
Beetroot and chocolate cake. I'm just finishing it off with the flowers and some lovely music in the background.
It is lovely music, Jill. And I would have put some heavy metal rock music over the top as my petulant humour, but I did not.
Just picked these from out of the garden.
Florid.
I'm not too sure if these are edible or not there.
Florid or floral? Floral. Florid's pinky. Or complicated.
If anyone wants the recipe, I can always put it online. There we are, one beetroot and chocolate cake.
Looking good, Jill. And oh, look at that. It comes with a saucy side dish as well. Oh, what have we got here? Sue, you've been busy too. Mixing it up in the kitchen. Oh, it always looks better when it comes out than before it goes in. And we've got some additional thingamajigs. Look at this. Cakes everywhere. And the cherry on the top. Nicely done, Sue. Katie. and oh, look. And baby Eliza there as well. That does look good. The cutie factor's being played out here. But I suspect they're going to waste it on some ingrates.
Hello, all. I'm going to try this rhubarb cake. Wish me luck. This might be the last thing you hear from me.
We hope so, Nick. We hope so.
Cake bit's alright. Let's try a bit of rhubarb.
Complete ingrate. But it's wonderful.
Oh, that's not bad. I'm not a fan of cake, but that's not bad.
Well, he seems to like it, and there it is. Oh, and is that a little foot I can see there, Katie? Is that your foot in the bottom of the screen? I like the addition. Another floral offering. Wonderful. Now then, this is Brian, isn't it? Brian, that looks absolutely wonderful. I like the little cut-out dog thing and the duck's head in the background. This is Rachel, I think. Rainbows, the sign of hope, and yeah, and hopefully it tastes pretty good. Looks good. I like the love heart sweetie things on there. Yeah. Oh, now this one's from Jill, and there's a note. Let me read it out to you. It says, "In my porch this bank holiday Morning was a bag full of homegrown spinach from my wonderful neighbour who had no idea I was about to make an organic spinach and olive oil cake. Popeye got his strength from spinach. The joy of the Lord is my strength. Well done, Jill. Right, now then, Jane, what have you got there? You've got written vegetables on it. No, there's vegetables in it, but there's definitely vegetables on it. Heather, very creative with the eggs, Paschal eggs there. That's and we got Keith's offering. I like that. There's a fruit on the bowl, if not vegetables, and tomatoes don't count. And then finally we've got Jenny's offering. Is that fried sliced parsnip stuff on the top of that again? But there's an Easter bonnet with little chicks in it. You should win for that alone, I think, Jenny. Wonderful performance, everybody. Now, that's it from me. I've got nothing more to worry about and no more responsibilities for him because we're over to Sean Connery for the end.
Well, good evening and welcome to awards night for the Mission Community Easter Bake-Off competition. It's always difficult being a judge because you have so many wonderful creations that you've got to try and judge and evaluate. And what I'd like to do is commend you all for your wonderful endeavours this Easter Monday and the baking that you've done. It's been absolutely wonderful. But the job of a judge is to judge, and I have the results of the competition here. So it's my privilege to announce third place in the Mission Community Easter Bake-Off to go to Richard and Jill Martin for their beautiful and very substantial cake. It looks lovely. Second prize goes to Margaret Elms for your very rustic and appealing looking cake. And then first prize goes to Rachel Fleming for what I can only describe as a vision of heaven. It looked absolutely wonderful. And I also announced that the Devon Guild of Baking Filmmakers, looking at the quality of the filmmaking that was involved in this bake-off, today are issuing special citations for outstanding filmography to Louise Prideaux and the Jackson family. So well done, congratulations, and me and my family look forward to joining you all soon. God bless you.